Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRNAM for Friday, July 7th, 2023. And our top story today, loan payments are set to restart. We've got some tips to help you along the way. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Mark Kantrowitz is the publisher of PrivateStudentLoans.guru. Mark, great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Big Supreme Court decision. We're not gonna discuss the merits or not merits of the case, but the bottom line is there's no student loan forgiveness, at least under the previously announced plan. I know that there are some other directions the administration wants to go in. So what are the key takeaways here for student loan borrowers who, hey, they were expecting some level of forgiveness?
Well, there won't be any forgiveness under the president's broad student loan forgiveness plan. He's vowed to not stop fighting and pursue another route to forgiveness, but that route could take as long as a year to implement. So student loans, federal student loans, are re-entering repayment this fall. Interest will begin accruing on September 1st, and the first payments will be due in October. So you need to start planning for how you're going to make those payments. And if you're struggling, steps you should take so that you don't go into default on your loans.
Yeah, and you make a really good point. So no student, there were a lot of people, Mark, that I think were counting on some level of student loans being wiped off the books. I would imagine that there's now some level of panic. How do you reassure people that even though there's a restart happening this fall, that you can make this work? You can develop a plan of attack to pay off the student loan the amount of money that you borrowed over time.
There are a lot of things that you can and should do to prepare for the restart of repayment. So first of all, I'd suggest updating your contact information with your loan servicer and on studentaid.gov so that you get the half dozen or so notices about the restart of repayment, which will tell you what your payment due date is and what your payment amount is. And keep in mind that almost a half of borrowers will have a new student loan servicer. Several servicers dropped out of the program at the start of the pandemic, and new servicers were added. So you should check on studentaid.gov for the name of your servicer if you don't know it already.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
I also recommend that you create what I call a descriptive budget, where you track your spending for a month and you label every expense as either mandatory, a need, or discretionary, a want. And at the end of the month, you total up all the discretionary spending and compare that with your student loan payments. And that'll tell you if you're able to make your student loan payments by making cuts in your budget. Otherwise, you might need to increase your income in order to cover the student loans. And that could be asking your boss for a raise. Unemployment rates are very low, so employers want to keep a hold of their best employees, and so they might be willing to give you a raise. Otherwise, you might need to take on a part-time job in the evening or weekends to cover the student loan payments, or some gig work or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of opportunities, Mark, and an interesting benefit that many employers are now thinking about is a student loan repayment feature as part of their retirement plan or as part of their employee benefit offering, where they'll actually match a portion of the repayment. I mean, that's a lot of employers are looking at that.
It was recently encoded into law, allowing employers to treat student loan payments that the employer makes that the employee makes as though they were contributions to the retirement plan for the purpose of retirement plan contribution matching by the employer. Congress passed a law that makes this much easier for their employers, so they don't have to confirm that the borrower is actually making those payments. They can rely on an attestation by the borrower that they're making those payments.
Mark, are there lessons here? Look, I mean, college is an important part for many Americans. Going to school, getting an additional level of education, getting them prepared for the next job. But are there lessons here from all that we've been through with student loan repayment, the restart there, and then the rejection, if you will, of the forbearance or forgiveness? Are there lessons here for future college attendees and their parents?
Well, you can't count on the federal government paying off your loans. You should borrow with the assumption that you're going to be required to pay back every penny that you receive. Now, there are some other loan forgiveness programs that have already been authorized by Congress, such as teacher loan forgiveness and public service loan forgiveness, that you can reasonably rely on. Though, even with public service loan forgiveness, there were a lot of glitches. I would also recommend that you budget before you borrow, and budget in two ways. One is look at where you're going to get the money to pay the college bills. Some of it will be from savings, some of it will be contributions from earnings, and some of it will be from student loans, and figure out whether that student loan debt is reasonable debt. The other is how you're going to pay back the loans. I mean, whether the amount that you pay back each month is something you're going to be able to afford. Now, a good rule of thumb concerning reasonable and affordable debt is your total student loan debt at graduation should be less than your annual starting salary. If your total debt is less than annual income, you should be able to afford to repay your student loans in 10 years or less. If it exceeds annual income, you're going to need an alternate repayment plan like extended repayment or income-driven repayment to afford the monthly loan payments.
Yeah. That's all great advice. Mark, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the affordability of college. What can Americans do? You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Well, Mark, thanks so much for staying with us. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2.
I'm glad to help any way I can.
Yeah, let's talk. So, kind of building on the end of our conversation. Many parents, it's summer months, and look, it's a summer for a lot of kids go off to school, but it may be the summer before senior year. Thinking about where do you go to school, and one of the first things that always comes up when you talk to a parent thinking about college for their kid is the price of education, and it is just expensive these days. I mean, the price of a college tuition annually, plus the books, plus the housing. Mark, it's very expensive.
Well, and if you look at the most expensive colleges in the country, you're talking $70,000, $80,000 a year. But you don't necessarily pay full sticker price. I mean, probably about half of wealthy families do. You have to look at the net price, and that's the difference between total college costs, tuition fees, room and board, book supplies and equipment, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses, and the gift aid, the grants and scholarships. That yields the net price, which is a kind of discounted sticker price. And that's the amount that you will really pay from your savings, from your earnings, and from reasonable student loan debt. The colleges that have the lowest net price are often going to be an in-state public college. There are also about 6 dozen colleges with very generous no loans financial aid policies, where they replace loans with grants in the financial aid package. And when you compare them based on the net price, and you find which colleges are more or less expensive depending on your specific circumstances.
Yeah.
Now, people sometimes point to community colleges as a way to save on college costs, but that comes with a big risk. Taking a detour through a community college may cause you to miss your destination. Only about a fifth of students who go to a community college intending to obtain a bachelor's degree eventually succeed in doing so within 6 years. Of those who start off at a 4-year institution, it's about 2/3. So you may save money, but you may not succeed in getting that degree that's your end goal. And that may be because the financial circumstances that forced you to go to a community college are still present. In the end, it may be that you're in an environment where people consider a 2-year degree to be a terminal degree. Or it may be that the credits that you earn at that community college don't transfer to a 4-year college, or if they do transfer, they don't satisfy prerequisites, they just satisfy general credit requirements. So you still have to take the same classes, and you don't necessarily graduate as a result of that 2-year stint at a 2-year institution.
Mark, what about kids who are in an accelerated high school program? You hear a lot. We did a show recently with the Tennessee Higher Education Commission talking about some of these accelerated programs where kids are in high school, they take courses for college credit, and it actually gives them a jump start. Is that for everyone? Is that something that people can do? Is it across many different states where you can get acceleration, get some of those college credits, and get in? I call it get in, get out faster, and actually maybe save some money.
Right. So there are a variety of different programs. There are dual enrollment programs where you're actually enrolled at a local community college. There are AP classes, advanced placement, There are international baccalaureate programs, and the impact on graduation with a bachelor's degree is kind of middling, though some students will graduate from high school with an associate's degree. And there are many excellent programs at community colleges. And if your goal is to become an electrician or an HVAC tech, or certain other very technical fields, an associate's degree may get you a high-paying job, better paying than some humanities programs at four-year colleges. So a lot depends on your individual goals and needs. As far as giving you a leg up on obtaining a four-year degree, the evidence is less convincing in that regard. The students who get an AP class credit aren't necessarily more likely to graduate. There's a slight edge for international baccalaureate, but not for AP classes.
Mark, when it comes to the college, I'm thinking back to when I was a kid in college. It was a long time ago, by the way, and trying to think about what major to go into. And I ultimately settled in on business, for good or bad or indifferent. But are there college majors that maybe trump the others? I'm thinking like accounting, where they can or even maybe computer science or programming. You can come out and almost immediately get a job. Once to begin paying back those loans, earn a decent wage, pay back the loans, and get yourself set up to buy the house, the car, maybe have kids, family, all that kind of good stuff.
Well, some academic majors lead to more lucrative occupations. If you get a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing, starting salaries are $60,000, $70,000 a year. STEM fields, science, mathematics, engineering, those tend to pay better than majoring in the humanities. And that's not because the humanities degrees aren't worthwhile pursuits. It's just that the STEM fields translate more directly into practical jobs that pay better, that are in greater demand.
Mark, what about mature Americans, people in their middle ages going back to school? Maybe they want to make a detour on where they've been in terms of a job. Maybe they've retired going back to school. I mean, anything for them to think about? And you mentioned gig work. A lot of older adults now getting into gig work. Does it make sense to go back to school, get an advanced degree, get some other degree, pursue another track in your life?
Well, if you're going back to college and taking out student loans, you have less time available to repay those student loans. So you need to be even more careful about borrowing too much to pay for an education. For example, if you expect to graduate 5 years before you want to retire, then you only have 5 years to repay the student loan. So that total debt less than annual income rule of thumb says 10 years to repay the debt. That means that you probably should be borrowing half as much. If you're just interested in an education as enrichment, in terms of you're interested in just taking classes in various fields and learning that material, and you don't need a degree, many colleges will allow senior citizens to audit classes where they don't get grades, but they do get to sit in on the classes on a space available basis.
And Mark, last question for you, I promise. Online education, I mean, there has been a move, I think, especially during the pandemic. We interviewed someone from Dartmouth who is responsible for all the online programs there. We've seen a lot of kids go that direction. Is that a way to reduce cost? If you physically don't have to be there, you don't have to do room and board, theoretically, I could be on the International Space Station and get a college degree, theoretically.
Yeah, well, there is a time lag from here to the space station.
I know, I'm kidding, but you know what I mean. I mean, does online education, is that a cost saver for people, or is it tuition just about the same?
Most colleges charge similar tuition for both online and in-person education. And different people will benefit from online education than in-person education. There was a study, I think it was out of UPenn, where they found that the people benefited the most from online education were the people who already had college degrees. People who are going there instead of in-person education for the first time didn't necessarily succeed as much, with a few exceptions. Like some disabled individuals found that online education was a better fit for their needs. I mean, if they had mobility issues or closed captioning, you can closed caption a recorded lecture, but not necessarily as well a live lecture. So some disabled individuals found that to be of benefit. You do save on housing and meal plans to the extent that you're not spending new money on it, but you still need somewhere to live and you need food to eat. So it may not really save you in that regard. Transportation expenses, though, is maybe one area where you save. But generally speaking, you're not going to save a significant amount of money going online than in person.
Yeah. Well, look, it's certainly a growing area. Who knows where things are going to be in 4 or 5 years. Mark, always great to see you. Thanks so much for breaking it all down as usual, and look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
You're welcome.
That wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest security news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN Weekly. We'll be taking a look at the markets for the week and then taking a look back at some of our best segments. You're not going to want to miss it. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
But if you're tired of the same
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.